Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be an overview on the Trapper subclass. To make a Trapper, simply go to New Hero, select Archer, and select Trapper. The Trapper is a very interesting and unique class. I won't lie, this class is extremely difficult to play, at least from what I experienced. It's easy if you don't do your setups right to get surrounded and then have a pretty tough time. She throws traps that will activate arrows based on enemies' proximity to them. It becomes very much about having to use your spells in between laying traps and setting up the proper defensive positionings with walls and rings to get them to funnel in properly. So if you're looking for a very unique and challenging method of gameplay, this might be an interesting class for you to try. First trait that we'll talk about is one that is likely to be avoided, Engineer. This will increase your trap damage slightly, but give you a pretty massive penalty in that you will get no gains to life or mana from level ups. I've seen it recommended that the only reason to really take this trait is if you're playing on multiplayer and have other people that can take the heat off of you. For single player, this will make your life a lot more difficult. Another trait trap for the Trapper could be considered Vigorous. This will give you a large life bonus, but it will reduce the speed at which you lay traps, and traps are not affected by attack speed, so this is generally regarded as something to not take, given that you won't be able to boost your trap speed by having faster attack. The one trait that I have seen that's possibly worth taking is Blood Oath. Since you will have a decent amount of regeneration from your base magic, getting this can make it much more comfortable to play as you will have a constant supply of mana to use on utility spells. And as with basically any class, Lithe Build is also an option to be taken if you're okay with dealing with the extra inventory hassle. The bonus it gives you for having to deal with this though is pretty solid. Next, we'll talk about perks regarding the Trapper. Your main damage perks are going to be Lethality, Purge, and Exorcism. These will boost your trap damage based on specific monster types. Also, after doing some digging in the Discord and getting help from some friendly veterans, I was able to determine that Bodkin points is not really worth getting, mostly because there just simply aren't many mobs that have DFE to begin with. Also, getting crit in the form of Slayer and Expert Killer is typically a good call. Crit is typically something that scales very well into endgame. As far as survival, Spell Deflection is a decent option to go for, as it will reduce the accuracy for spells from monsters to hit you. Or if you'd rather build for a synergy that can give you survivability, Impedance can be quite good, though you will have to get many points into Resistance and Steel Skin to do so. Those will also all buff your survivability. Ostentation is an obvious choice for most classes, and you will have to get Swift Learner and Obsession to meet these requirements, as well as level 60. Aside from this, there are no synergies that are Trapper specific, so the rest will be up to you. As far as gearing goes, there are a couple routes you consider. If you want to be more of a tank and likely more useful for solo play, you could build things like mana, magic, DFE, and etc. I have seen it recommended though that instead of mana shield, you can also try stacking flat HP, and this avoids the malice that mana shield incurs. Another route that you can potentially go, and this might be suited more for multiplayer, is to go full into damage and critical chance. This will make your traps hit much harder, though you will be lacking in survivability, so I'm not sure if this is recommended for single player so much as MP. You will likely have to do target item farms if you're going to do this route, as you need to get specific gear that gives the crit chance, crit bonus, and percent weapon damage. As far as stat allocation goes, dexterity will be your primary stat, followed by magic, and then finally strength and vitality in terms of equipping gear. I would also chase getting mana regeneration pieces, as a large amount of your offense will actually just be using spells in between letting your traps fire off when they're able to. For defensive layers, due to your high dex amount, you should be able to block quite well. It won't be as good as your standard warrior, but it should suffice decently so. After that, I'd go for a mix of minus DFE, MDR, ADR, and resistances as much as you can. Overall, there is no one specific defensive layer I'd say that is best to build for her. As far as playstyle is concerned, along with the investment that you'll be making to magic, you should be able to operate with near full use of utility spells eventually. Fire and Lightning Wall, Stone Curse, Golem, and even Flame Wave. Like summoners and mages, the more space they are given, the safer the Trapper will be, making the beginning of levels that much more challenging. Just know that, as I've said in the previous part of the video, this is a very difficult class to play. It requires a lot of game know-how, and you're going to be in for a challenge if you choose to attempt it. This class will fall behind the other archer types as well once you get into higher difficulties, and once other archers are able to gain fastest attack speed, usually around level 50 plus. Trappers are unaffected by attack speed, which is useful to not have to waste gear choices with it, but if you want to maximize damage and speed, I'd say play those subclasses instead of this one. One good thing to note though is that trappers do not need to worry about accuracy. All traps have a 95% chance to hit by default. Another target that you can also aim for as far as gearing is getting pieces that have Dread or Ruin, as they will greatly increase the amount of damage that your traps will do and thus increase your killing power. And one final additional note is that since some enemies have built-in DFE, it is simply easier to use bolt traps instead of arrow traps most of the time. Bolt traps fire shortly after they are laid down, so it kinda skips the downside of the long time fire if you simply place new traps. Overall, the Trapper is a unique and interesting take on the Archer archetype. And if you're willing to face the challenge, it can probably be fun and rewarding to do so. Though as you can see, I had quite a bit of a struggle when I tried to play the Trapper that was loaned to me. A final note that I'd like to add is that the game is still in continuous development, and as I'll say in all of these videos that are covering classes that are considered a bit subpar by the community, changes still may come that can buff the class, so hopefully this can still stand the test of time and give you a decent general overview and a guide of where to go. It definitely takes some know-how, but if you're up to the challenge, it could be well worth it. I hope you enjoy trapping the dark corridors of Diablo 1 The Hell 4.